Hey, I am super, super stoked. One of my favorite guests. We've had him on the show a few times, but he always brings it and rocks the house. It's Joshua Smith, the leader, the legend in the house. Welcome back, Joshua.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for having me, man. I always love jamming with you, dude. So this is a huge honor and a pleasure.
Now, I'm going to read this because I want our audience to know just how much of a rock star you are. And I know you've heard this a million times, but I'm going to say it anyway. So just a little background on Joshua. Got in the real estate business in 2005. First year sold 48 homes, which is massive for anyone. But then since 2005, sold 7,000 homes, 7,000, voted 30th top realtor in America by the Wall Street Journal, top 1% of realtors, team leaders in the world, and founder and host of the GSD podcast. If you're not listening to that now, you are absolutely missing out. Fantastic podcast. Everybody should subscribe to that one. So Joshua, we're in I am so excited just to dive in and talk to you about all the market conditions that we're facing. And you just told me you guys had your best month ever, which is an absolutely incredible as a team leader. Let's dive in, man. What are you seeing in the market? What have you done to adapt and pivot?
Yeah. What's interesting, between the podcast and then, I've got in addition to my real estate team, I've got a software company and whatnot where, we have clients from all over North America. So the reason why I bring that up is I get an insight into really what's going on all over the United States, all over Canada. And we all seem to be, for the most part, experiencing the same thing, right? So, with this, and I'll get into, very strategic things that we're doing, with this. But just to kind of, and again, I know that most people know this, they understand this, but I just like to reinforce it of what are we experiencing? The reason why I bring this up is because when I talk about market shifts or pivots, so many make this assumption that just means seller's market to a buyer's market.
Yeah.
Right. Like I get and I understand that for most of us, we are still in a seller's market, low inventory, multiple offers. Most markets are still at or close to peak pricing or have either stabilized or still going up. But when I'm talking about shifting and pivoting, if we look at, we are truly in a real estate recession right now. If we look at what's a recession, 2 declining quarters of GDP, right? Well, we have 18 straight consecutive months of transaction volume declines now throughout the United States. Right. We're back to 2008 levels of transaction volume decline. And we look at, well, why is this? Why is this? Okay, number one, we got the most unaffordable time to acquire real estate in United States recorded history. Number two, the most expensive time to be alive as a U.S. citizen in recorded history, right. With inflation, everything, man, it's just crushing the average person. So essentially we wiped out. If we look at every big investor client that I've been repping for 10 plus years is essentially backed out of this market. Like one investor client in particular, Blackstone, everybody's pretty much heard of Blackstone. Sure. We've represented them for a lot of years now. We were doing about, just with my team, not counting just, what they were doing overall here in Phoenix, but we were doing about 20 units a month pretty consistently with them for years. That's a lot. Well, about 18 months ago, cost of capital got to that position. They're just like, nope, we're out. Wow. Right. So, so when I talk about pivoting, shifting, and adapting, right, like it pivots or market shifts can happen, whether it be technology, it's just look during COVID, right? Like, even though I know some markets did different things, but it was okay. Well, we had to pivot during that time of shutdowns. We had to learn how to do virtual listing presentations, virtual, so that's what I mean with this of how do we adjust to this new climate that we are in, and I will say that there's, 3 overall things. Number one, and then we can get into any strategies that you want to get into, because there's a lot of them that we're doing right now, because with lesser people able to buy and sell, like we have to do more things, right? So, number one is from a mental perspective, something that served me extremely well over the last, 18 years that I've been doing this, is understanding that there's no such thing as a good market or a bad market. The market is always good for somebody. As real estate professionals, it's our job to identify whom the current market is good for, and then pivot, shift, and adapt to whom that market is good for. There's going to be markets that are great for buyers, great for sellers, great for investors, great for distressed sales. There's always opportunity out there. So I never look at this from a lens of good or bad. The media, the news will call a seller's market good or bad. But if you look at the last couple of years, like who the hell was that good for? Yeah, if you were selling, but it sucked for everybody else, for the most part, right? So, so again, in understanding that success is always internal. It is never external. Like the market does not dictate our success. We dictate and determine our success. Whatever the market is experiencing, whatever the economy is experiencing, doesn't mean that we need to partake in that. Just because transaction volume is way down, we got what, 37% roughly nationwide. But in each market, like my market's down 39% from a transaction volume standpoint, but that doesn't mean my business needs to be down 39%. Like this is a great market. I know we were just talking about it 2 weeks ago, you and I, Jim, of like, this is a time to go out there and just take yours, man, get your market share right now, right? So number one is just that mental perspective. Because if you don't have that, if you're playing the victim card, if you're blaming the market, you block yourself from seeing the opportunities at hand. I hear so many agents, man, it just drives me crazy, but I hear so many agents are like, oh, nobody's selling, nobody's buying. Even sometimes agents in my own team I'll catch them, making those statements. And I'm like, look, man, there's 5,500 homes in my market closing every single month. Now there's typically closer to 10,000. So I get that it's lesser, but there's still 5,500. I'm like, like I tell my agents, man, each of you go get 3, 4, 5 a month. If we are all collectively selling 3, 4, 5 a month, like we're freaking murdering it. Right. All right. So then from there, so that's number one. Number two is, okay, with transaction volume decline, like what we did just over a year ago and adjusting our business plans for this is just with this understanding that, okay, if there's 37% on a nationwide front. And now I recommend all of you figure out what this is for your own market. So what I recommend to do there is just look at the last month, at least as of us recording this, that you have access to this data is going to be July. So July of 2023, go see how many homes closed in your market for 2023. And then go back and then look at, okay, what's the 5-year standing average of how many new units normally close? And the reason why I say a 5-year standing average is the last couple of years have been a little haywire, a little out of the norm with all the COVID shit, right? So, but then from there, okay, then do the math on that and see, okay, is your market down 37% like the nation average? I have some agents that and team leaders I'm talking to that are, in certain pockets that their market is down 48%, right? So figure out whatever that is, right? In your market, it might be 15%, might be 20%. Just figure out what that is. Oh, and I'll just use the nationwide numbers because it doesn't matter, right? So, okay, if there's 37% lesser transactions, that then tells me that, okay, I then need to go out there and do 37% more energy and effort when it comes to lead gen and lead follow-up.
Right.
Now, of course, we can get more strategic with this, and I'll get into some of the niches that we're really laser focusing on where, this may not be necessary. However, plan on it, right? So first thing that we did, again, as we started to see this cost of capital going about 18 months ago and this transaction volume decline drop off starting to take place, was this is how we hedged for it. Okay, we went to every single lead source within our business plan for us just to maintain our goals. Like I said, my market's down 39%. So I've got to generate 39% more leads and have 39% more conversations to get the same result. Well, then if I want to grow my business by 20%, okay, the path is the math. This is a numbers game. Right. So go out there and hedge for that. So that's number two is how to hedge for this transaction volume decline. And look, I wish there was a better way of saying this, but I don't think that there is, of just dealing in realities. What I'm telling my agents right now is like, look, you guys, this is not a time to go out there and seek balance. This is not a time to go out there and feel sorry for yourself that you need a day off or need some time off. Like this is a time where you got to pick and choose. Okay, do I want to make it in this industry, or do I want to become a statistic that has to drop out of this industry? Like this is a time for war, man. And in business, there's times of war and there's times of peace. We just came out of a decade plus of peace. Now we're in a time of war, and you got to pick and choose what side of this equation do you want to be on? Are you going to fight to go out there and have a successful real estate career? Because this too shall pass. And there will be that inflection point where transaction volume normalizes, but instead of having 1.6 million realtors, maybe we have 1.2 million, right? So there's going to come that point where there'll be that sweet spot, man, where like this is going to pay off on a massive front, but right now we got to push through it. And then the third thing, and then this, I can hit any follow-up questions you have and we can get deep into each of these individual strategies, but then is to identify and be very strategic, with really niching down on where the biggest opportunity is at. So when we're looking at this, over the last decade or so, really since about post 2012, we were just in this amazing economic climate with low inflation, affordable everything, low unemployment, where a lot of people wanted to participate in real estate. So you could cast a wide net. Right now, like you can't shotgun, man. Like you got to have that sniper scope. You got to be laser focused on where, like who has that need, where's that, like not just who maybe wants to, right? Like we're not going out there and operating in just, general tactics right now, man. It's laser focused strategies, laser focused tactics on like, dude, like where's that desperation? Where is that need? Who needs to participate and who is able to participate in this given climate? And we can, definitely get into specific strategies too.
So tons of great stuff right there. But let's, when you said the path isn't the math, I love that comment, because a lot of times agents feel like this is an art form. Like we're just going to kind of wave a magic wand. Maybe something good will happen, maybe it won't. But with your team, I'm sure, I'm guessing you're really highly specific, and you're saying, okay, last year we were making 25 calls to FSBOs to generate X, to generate X, to generate X. Now we've got to go up 39%. So that means you got to make 38 or whatever calls. Is that how you're approaching it? Like it's very, very specifically?
Yeah, that's how we initially started hedging for it. And that's what we're planning on. Yeah. Right. Then from there, of course, okay, if I bring on a new agent or an agent that's struggling, whatever, okay, that's where we're going to set them at. Then from there, their numbers will actually tell us, what those actual results, are once we get some actual data on there. But that's where we started of, okay, hey, man, like, let's just say you're converting 1 out of 10 with open houses, 1 out of 10 leads. Okay. Now we know that you need 1 out of 14. Maybe you're converting 1 out of 100 with your Facebook leads. Now we know that you need 1 out of 140, right. It's just, I mean, to me, it just, and again, I didn't have anything, when we started doing that, other than that's just what made sense in my head, man. I'm like, okay, transaction volume decline is down by X. Okay. That's just going to mean that we got to go out there and have X amount more conversations to make up for that deficit.
I'm curious with your team, and just for team leaders to hear this, but also individual agents and solo agents and brokerage leaders, is when your business a year ago had a mix of buyers versus sellers, right? So you were X percentage. Has that changed? And is it an intentional change, or are you driving that change?
Yeah, no, it's intentional. And just because what we're seeing the biggest opportunity at right now is on the listing side. I mean, yeah, we're a big reload market here in Phoenix, Arizona, so, and I've always historically, I've tried to keep my business very balanced, about 50-50. Other than the great financial crisis, I mean, I was like 90%, listings at one point, above 90% listing on the listing side, just because we're handling so many REOs in distress. But the reason why I like to keep a more kind of 50-50 business is, look, I'm always playing the long game, right? And when we look at the long game, when we look at LTV, because maximizing LTV is the true, like any business owner understands the power of LTV. LTV just stands for lifetime value of a customer, right? So I look at this of, okay, every closing that I get, it's not let's just say that commission is $10,000, right? That's not a $10,000 client. If I play this right, every person that I ever do business with should be worth at least $70,000 throughout the lifetime of my career, with all the repeat referral business. And we've just seen, at least with my team and for most, right, that we get a lot more repeat referral business just because it's more relationship based on the buy side, where they become those raving fans, but right now in this market, we're definitely pivoting and have pivoted, to much more on the listing side, right? Where our business now is more about 70-30. I mean, we're still helping a lot of buyers because of reloads, but right now we're just, being laser focused. What's working best for us is prospecting tactics, some marketing still working, but kind of old school fundamental prospecting tactics, dude, and getting those listings.
So I'm curious with your mix, because you got a big team, but with your mix, is it 67 when you're talking about lifetime value of the client, which is a great way to look at your business, but is your business primarily what we traditionally call sphere based, and or is a big part of it like other funnels, and what can you do?
It's almost exactly like 50%, dude, right? So like if we look at this last year, just under 350 units that we did through repeat referral business, and the other what 300 what would that break down to? 354 units were new business coming in,
So about
you know,
50.
and that's the goal I try to hit with any of my agents coming on is, you know, by year 5, I want to get them to where 50% of their business is repeat referral business, the other 50% new business. Now they could, if they chose to, just start relying on that repeat referral business. But if you're wanting to grow at, like, let's just say, you know, a 20 to 30% growth rate year over year, you know, it's very difficult to do that just relying on repeat referral business.
I agree, 100%.
You know, like you can get to the point where you're popping 50 deals a year consecutively year over year. Maybe you're going from 50 to 53 to 50, you know, but we're looking to grow by 20 to 30% year over year. You know, so we try to keep, you know, 50% new business, 50% repeat referral business, but that repeat referral business is, you know, cut in half right now.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
You know, right. And this is when I'm having agents or team leaders, you know, reaching out right now, you know, the common conversation is, you know, man, I built up, you know, spent 15 years building up this amazing book of business. And I've been able to just kind of coast on that repeat referral business where they're doing 100+ units a year. And now their business is down 60, 70% because they relied on that leg. Well, again, when you got over half the consumer that's wiped out of this crazy, insane time to just be alive and just operate life, and it's just getting worse, and it's just going to continue to get worse. Right. You know, like we got to, you know, what worked yesterday isn't always going to work today. Right.
So when you're talking about this new business, can you break it down? Like what are you guys doing? What's your
approach? Yeah. So we'll start, we can maybe start because we're only doing a few things for the buy side, and then we can get into the list side. That might take a little bit longer. All right. So again, just speaking to specifically of where is that need and who can participate. So like earlier I said, you know, identifying, like the market's always good for somebody. And when I mean that, like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's good for them. Okay. Like during the great financial crisis, and we're doing this again now because we're seeing a lot of this come back, going after distressed sales. Right. So your notice of defaults, your short sales, your people that are delinquent on their mortgages, it's not a good situation for them, but it's a big opportunity to be had. Right. So when I mean that, doesn't it, you know, so hopefully everybody, you know, that makes sense.
There's an opportunity in the market and everybody.
All right. So then from there, now this could be market to market. You know, so I'll kind of explain the methodology behind this, but we're sort of looking at, okay, like what is actually moving and who can participate. So in my market, there's nothing really under 400 grand. There's very little under 500 grand. So when we start looking at this, it's like, okay, dude, I mean, it's the upper middle class, it's the affluent that can really participate in this market. So then we start breaking down of, okay, like, you know, who's transacting in this market. And then the first thing I look at is, you know, what's the demographic makeup? You know, so these are really, you know, for us, I mean, it's really that 40 to 60, but even more specific, you know, 42 to 55, if you will, you know, married couples that are making between 150 and you know, $300,000 a year as far as household income. These are move up clients. They're either relocating here and selling somewhere else, or they're here locally and they're moving up. You know, they've been in their home for at least 10+ years. They got plenty of equity to go out there and play ball. But what I love, and this has been my favorite ideal client throughout my whole entire career, because, you know, for me, like whether I'm going after Facebook ads or doing open houses, we obtain them on the buy side, but in order for them to transact, they also have to go out there and sell. So, you know, I get, I mean, it's the quickest way to go out there and double your cost per acquisition, or minimize, you know, same cost per acquisition, double the commissions, I should say. You know, so then from there, it's like, okay, well, so in my market, as an example, I know the cities, because Phoenix is huge, you know, 30 some metros, you know, or cities that, you know, but it's like, okay, like what are the suburbs that they're buying in? What are the neighborhoods? What is the type of product that they want? So for us, it's that $600,000 to $900,000 price point, you know, 4+ bedrooms, 2.5+ bathrooms. This is going to be the $600,000 to $900,000 price point. We're seeing our buyer clients in this market, they don't want any deferred maintenance. Like it needs to be move-in ready. They don't want, and I get it. Like you're already maxing out, you know, debt to income ratios. And it's like, dude, they want it and they need it to be move-in ready, you know, you know, they want a home with a pool. So again, we know what they want and we know what the neighborhoods that they desire to be in, you know, so like right now, okay, we're doing a lot of open houses, but what are we doing open houses on? We're doing open houses on the homes that we know our ideal clients want. So open house is just our storefront for the day. It's our business storefront for the day, where we have the highest probability of our ideal client walking in that door for us to connect with them and be able to serve and support them there. You know, right. So we're doing a ton of open houses right now.
You do them during the week as well, Joshua?
I mean, I do have some agents that do, but I mean, by far we get the best success on the weekends.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like open houses is, look, those that are not going to participate in this market, that are unwilling or unable and just checked out, for the most part, they're not going to spend a weekend driving around and going through open houses.
Right.
Now, I don't want to say you don't get some looky-loos, but look, like, our goal conversion with my teammates is worst case to get them converting 1 out of 15 open house leads. Right. But then get them ideally to 1 out of 10, right? Like 1 out of 10 are great numbers. 1 out of 15 is good enough.
Average.
But even at 1 out of 15, like, dude, like, okay, if I do 2 open houses this weekend, I'm guaranteed to get, I mean, usually even with 1 open house, I mean, we're average about 30 people through each open house. And we do a lot with them and a lot of pre-marketing and we hammer them hard. I mean, put out 60+ signs. I mean, we hammer them hard, right? But with that being said, though, it's making sure where I see most go wrong with their open houses is they just do an open house on a listing for somebody in the brokerage because they asked them to. Yeah, right. Like they're not getting really strategic. Again, is this a huge neighborhood that's in high demand? Is it the product your ideal client's looking for? Like, what does that look like, right?
Sure.
So consistent open houses. Then from there, same thing with our targeted Facebook ads. Now, our targeted Facebook ads, we're doing this on 2 fronts, right? So on a local level, we're running ads. So that particular city plus a 15-mile radius, but same thing, everything in that ad is speaking specific to that property. So it's going to have an image of that type of property that represents it. And then even in the ad, it'll say something like, wow, check out all these amazing homes currently listed for sale in Peoria, Arizona, all featuring sparkling swimming pools, 4+ bedrooms, 2,400+ square feet, 3+ bathrooms, 3+ car garages, all currently listed between $600,000 and $900,000. Click the learn more button to see, photos, info, monthly mortgage payment amounts, and more.
Highly specific.
Yeah. And our cost per lead is up, but then with the higher price points, like our cost per acquisition is the best we've ever seen it, but then from there, if you're in a reload market.
Can I ask you one question, Joshua?
Yeah, of course.
Because we're going to get some people that are going to want to grill me on this. When you're doing, because you're an expert on Facebook ads, and I know you've been doing it for years and years. When you do a Facebook ad, are you having Facebook collect the leads and you're pulling the leads out, or are the Facebook leads landing on your website and you're collecting them there?
No, man, I've split tested. I mean, me, dude. I've been,
you're deep.
I've spent about $2 million of my own money on Facebook ads over the almost decade I've been doing them. And so one of the powerful things of Facebook ads is you can split test, and spend very little money to test where you're getting the best results, what images work the best, headlines, so Facebook lead generation, lead form ads of what you were speaking to, where they input their data into Facebook, is where we by far are getting the best result. Because look, if anytime that you make people take multiple steps, right, like that's where you're gonna, So, but then the key there is making sure. So like we have with my CRM and the native integration with Facebook's API that then pulls that information right out of Facebook, dumps it direct. And you can use Zapier, you can use other things, but with Facebook ads, the important thing, and this is really important for any lead sources, you got to understand the psychology and you got to understand the time frame, right? Because the psychology is what you're going to be speaking to them in the ad, plus how you're going to speak to them as far as that lead follow-up. And then timeline is, okay, well, how long do I need to nurture this lead? The average Facebook lead is in my CRM 6.7 months before they become a client. Wow. So, so then from there, it's like, okay, like they automatically come in, they get autoresponder email, autoresponder text. They're going to go on a 1,000-day email text drip campaign that I've personally custom written out, for that lead source. It automatically starts tasking me to do my calls. So I'm going to call same day, then every other day for the first 14 days and every 21 days for the first year. And that sounds like an aggressive call campaign, but that's only until I get them on the phone. I understand what their goals are, what their timelines are, and then once I identify that, right, then that will adjust what my frequency is, right, gotcha, of those calls. But yeah, lead gen ads. So where they're opting inside Facebook, hands down, is where you'll get by far the best cost per lead, and the most accurate data, right? With that, because it's going to preload, whatever the last lead form or from their profile page, so that's what we're doing with those. So then from there, every
market's unique, right? So I know that lead gen will cost different in LA than it does Phoenix, but on average, what is your lead cost? Just
like right now, $7.
$7. Okay.
Yeah. Right. And it's not just that every market, it's really the price point.
Yeah.
So like if you're under that $500,000 price point, I mean, for most of my career up until like before COVID, It's like, I've been averaging between, like that 250, 280 price point, then now all of a sudden it's just stupid. I never thought in my career, man, would I cringe when I get a solid, fully pre-qualified buyer that's like 350, 20% down, great credit, and not cringe because I don't want to help them. It's that I can't help them. I didn't think I'd be here, man. Like it just, my market increased over 62% between 2020 and 2021.
Wow.
It's just stupid. It just makes zero sense, right? I mean, it makes sense when you see what the Fed and, Treasury's doing, but, it's just gotten crazy. Right. So, so yeah, I mean, when I'm running these ads, my target is to be around 7. Once I get above 10, that's when I'll shut it off and know that, okay, I probably hit ad fatigue, or whatever. If we're above the $1 million price point, because a few of my agents, like last month, one of my agents just popped the $8 million deal. So I've got a few of my agents that specialize in luxury, and depending on that, okay, that 1 million to 3 million price point, we're going to be more in that $15 to $20 per lead. The 3+ million, we might be paying, $25 to $50 per lead. But then from there, it ends up being relative. Sure. Yeah, I mean, because like that $8 million deal, I mean, those commissions are,
huge.
But yeah. So then, okay. So then from there, if you're in a reload market, make sure that and understand where specifically people are reloading to your market from. And you can go to your local city department. This is what I do. You can also go to Google, but most accurate, go to your local city department, go to the planning zoning department within there. And just, hey, I'm a local business owner. I operate a real estate team here locally. What I'm specifically looking for is the last, last data they're going to have is 2022 demographic report showing where people are moving from, that are moving here to our city, where they're moving from, what states, and what I'm really specifically looking for is what cities and metros within those states that they're moving from. So I want to get that list of that. I mean, top 10 at a minimum, top 20 is even better, right? If you're able to go get this data. So as an example, I get a lot of people from California. There's a lot of people moving from California here to Phoenix, right? However, within California, there's like 3 places, right? You got San Francisco Bay Area, you got Riverside, and you got San Diego. Right? We got a lot of people from Canada. Well, Canada's 10 provinces. There's only really 2 provinces. And then within those 2 provinces, only really 3 locations, man. I got, I got Calgary, I got Edmonton, and I got Toronto. Yeah, right. Where so then, so this is where you can get specific with it. A lot of people from Illinois, right? But Illinois, again, big state, man, it's pretty much just Chicagoland. So this way I can get very targeting, just targeting not just those states, but just those metros, because people from Reading, people from Tahoe, people from Sacramento, right, they're really not moving here in masses to Phoenix. It's, people in these other locations. So then that way you can really identify and know. So then when we're targeting those ads, we're able to target just those people and speak specifically to them.
What's the split on your advertising? Are you saying I'm going to invest 30% on those metro reload market feeder, we'll call them feeder markets, and the rest local? I mean, do you have a split? How do you look at that? Or you
I just test everything. I test everything. So what I do is, okay, start with an ad budget. So I'll run an ad, let's just say it's starting at $5 a day. Right. To go out there and start testing it to make sure it's going to start performing. And then, but then, I mean, this is one of the biggest questions that I get of like, what should my starting budget be?
Right.
Okay. Your starting budget, in my opinion. So everything I'm saying here is just my opinion. You guys can take it with a grain of salt, maybe the best advice, maybe the worst advice, who knows, but I'm just telling you what works for me. Right. So, but anyway, is okay. What can you afford to spend daily, weekly, monthly for the next 9 months without expecting any ROI? Because now you might get lucky, and you probably will get lucky and pop a deal before that, but it won't be consistent.
Right.
It's kind of like geo farming or direct mail, or like it just takes time. So then I tell people like, what can you exhaust to spend that isn't going to break the bank, that isn't going to hurt you, where you can go 9 months without that ROI, and that should be your starting budget. Then from there, I have a very strict rule where a scaling strategy. So meaning, okay, I stay with that budget until I'm getting a 400% gross return. So if I'm sticking in $1, I better get 4 back, right? On a gross scale. So that would be a 300% net return with that. And the reason why, because I found as a team leader, If you're an individual agent, you might be able to get away with a little bit less, but you don't need to, because you can easily make these returns with Facebook, right?
Right.
But as a team leader, if I got to split these deals with my agents and then I still have staff costs, if I get a 400% gross return, I'm really making like $1.50 on that dollar I invested. You know, so that's why it's my minimum return on these. Yeah. So then with that, okay, I want to see 3 consecutive months of getting that 400% return, you know, month over month. Because in this business, it's so easy to have a fluke good month. And then you can think it's the norm. Like I was just saying, you know, one of my agents just popped an $8 million deal. Well, like that was, you know, that was a record for us. I haven't sold it. You know, we hadn't popped an $8 million deal before. Okay. Well, that month, our numbers went up a little bit from what are considered, like, that's not the new norm.
No.
You know, right. So 3 months is enough to show, and if it's tracked and it's measured, okay, this is a trend. You know, I can plan on this. Right. So then once I got 3 months of that, then I'll double my budget. So let's just say I'm at $500 a month ad spend. You know, now that I'm making, you know, what, $2,000 a month, you know, for 3 consecutive months. Okay. Now I'll double that to 1,000, but then I play red light, green light. So I stay there until, again, I've done, you know, I've made my 400% gross return on that. So then from there, you know, it really just comes down to, so each, like to your question of, you know, local versus relo, what I do personally, is I follow that same strategy I just walked you through, but I each different area. So it's not just California, each of those different areas, I create a completely different ad campaign and ad set for each of those areas. And I judge it based off of each ROI that I'm getting off of each ad set.
So you have like a budget, a starting budget, and you grow it, you scale it from each location gets scaled relatively.
Exactly.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, cause that way, I mean, like for us, it's like, you know, like right now, like, okay, Seattle, like Tacoma, Seattle area, we've got a lot of people moving down here from there, you know, just because, you know, real estate's, you know, whatever the reason may be, but, you know, that might be, you know, hotter versus, so, you know, that way it's not like an 80-20 versus 20% local, 80%. It's just whatever area is performing the best, where I'm getting the best clients and the best cost per acquisition is where I scale it.
Now, something we've talked about before when you had me on your program is I do a lot of mailings, done a lot of mailings in my past. Are mailings a part of your program for lead gen?
Yeah. So I'll get into that here. So 2 last thing on the buy side that we're seeing that work. All right. So then YouTube. Now, when I say YouTube, this is building an organic YouTube channel for your area, right? But YouTube, again, I mean, it's the best converting lead source I've ever seen in my life. 20% conversion rates if you're good, 40% if you're great. But it does take about 9 months to build up. You know, so releasing, you know, 2 weekly videos on your YouTube, you know, videos like, you know, top 10 reasons to live in Medford, you know, Medford, Oregon, right? Pros and cons of living in Medford, Oregon, you know, cost of living in, you know, those types of videos, and having strategic call to actions with those. But again, that takes time. But, you know, we started getting into YouTube very heavily years ago. So, and we're also a relo market. So we kind of hit the sweet spot and did well with that. Even though it's down, like I said, each of these are down, which is why it's taken a more multi-pronged approach, but they're all working. The last thing on the buy side, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question on YouTube. Are you doing a YouTube ad along with the YouTube video, or just straight YouTube video?
Just straight YouTube videos.
Okay,
yeah. Just, you know, looking at this, because, okay, like where's the consumer going? The consumer's going to Zillow. So when I look at that, I go, okay, like what can they find on Zillow and what can they not find on Zillow? Well, on Zillow, they can find everything out about the house.
Yep.
But they can't, it's impossible. Like if I'm relocating from Phoenix to Medford, well, I have no idea what it's like, what the neighborhoods are like, what it's like living there. I mean, I could see all the houses, but I don't know what it like, what are the schools like? What's it like to raise my family? Like, what am I going to do there for fun? What are the, you know, so it's creating that bridge for people that are coming to your market, that are reloading to your market, to be able to learn more about all the important things to them outside of the home itself. So I mean, really our YouTube video, like we're not really doing property tours, but everything else that's real estate related, that's important to them, man, we're, you know, all those, you know, fun things to do, top things to do, pros and cons, you know, cost of living in, you know, all of those are great videos. Right. And the cool thing about that is they develop such a strong relationship with you. The people that don't like you, that don't connect with you, they ain't going to call you. Yeah. Right. So by the time they reach out to you, they spend hours watching your content. They feel like they know you, you know, all right. So then the last thing on the buy side, because we're with the direct mail, I mean, we're doing some direct mail on the going after listings. But the last thing on the buy side that we're seeing not just work well for me, but, you know, for others out there as well, is intent-based online sites. And most specifically by this, I mean Zillow. and I know our market does, a lot of people don't like Zillow in our industry and, whatnot. But we're having a lot of success with Zillow, right? So with Zillow though, because why? Like what is Zillow is really taken over and become the modern day sign call. Like, just think about the consumer. Like every consumer knows Zillow. As much as we might like them or hate them as a real estate community, they get 100 million plus unique visitors every single month. Yep. You're driving through, I don't know, neighborhood, see a sign, interested, like you're going to go to Zillow, right? The consumer is, so when we get these are essentially live transfer sign calls, right? But the big thing where people fall short with Zillow is because the cost is so expensive. Now in my market, they no longer allow Premier. It's only Zillow Flex. So we have to pay them a 35% referral fee on everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Which is kind of nice because you don't have to pay the 20 grand up front or 10 grand up front. But when you do the math, it ends up costing more, right? Because it's 35% for any transaction that you do with them within 2 years.
It's 2 years. That was 1 year for
Yeah. Well, at least I could be wrong on that. I'd have to double check on that, but I thought it was,
you might be right.
It might be market to market. But then also, so like we had one just recently that, okay, these people, they're looking to buy a $3.5 million property. Now this was a Zillow lead, but then they have like $1 million, just over $1 million property that they want to sell. Wow. Well, we got to pay them on both.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, hey, I wouldn't have that person otherwise. Right. So it is what it is, but with Zillow, it's like, dude, like you have to have a 5% conversion rate to even make it worthwhile, but really striving to a 10% or greater conversion rate. And there's a way to do it, but like dude, with Zillow, like you gotta be, number one, you gotta be able to be very reactive. Like if I was an individual agent, I wouldn't screw around with it. Right. Cause like what I love about Facebook ads is like, hey, if I call them in the first 24 hours that they come in, that's good. Right. Like I could even, it's like, I got 7 months to build this relationship. It's not a reactive source. It's a long-term nurture source. With Zillow, it's like, you have to, so we have, a team that's just like, they have to
5 minutes, 5 minutes to get it to them, right?
Yeah. Well, dude, it's like, no, like we have to have an 80% or greater live transfer rate. Cause if we don't get it, it's going to go to somebody else, right? So then from there, you got to be really good and aggressive at the front end. You got to be good in the middle, and then you got to be good at the long game, with your follow-up, like as an example, okay, if we don't set the appointment right then there on the phone, okay, we're calling every single day for 14 days straight, decide to set that appointment. And then every 21 days for the next year, plus, email drip campaigns, texting campaigns that go up for 1,000 days. And, because we really need to be at a 10% or greater conversion rate to really start making some good money at that source. Right. All right. So then
and keep in mind that I think the average is like a 0.5%. So, you guys are like crushing it to get to 5 or 10%, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is the like immediate, like now that converts with that live call, like in the first 30 days versus it's 6 months out? Have you guys tracked that?
So, the vast majority, I'd have to look at the numbers and I don't have them right in front of me. Yeah. We track everything. So I would have that, but our average Zillow lead is under contract and closed within 4 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our average time frame.
Got it.
So yeah, but those are averages, right? So then there's going to be some that are sooner, some that are late, longer with that. And that's why, because again, like, especially if I have a new agent, it's like, if they're in our Zillow department, which, one of my agent partners has the account. So it's on my team that oversees it. And like, he's able to get his agents clients under contract in 30 days, wow. Right. So it is that, because especially I know, Jim, that you don't go after so many new agents, but like, I love new agents. Right. But I found, man, if we don't get them producing right out of the gate, then it's hard for them to, like, we don't get them that right momentum out of the gate, then it's very difficult. Right. Yeah. They can't go 6 months without a paycheck or having some wins, right.
Right.
Okay. So then going over the list side, right. Because this is really our primary focus today. All right. So, expireds and FSBOs are great. Always have been great. The issue right now today is there's lesser of them. Now we're having more success today with FSBOs than we are expireds in my market, at least, for my team. I shouldn't even say my market. Now with expireds, I do have a mailing campaign, that, works well. The hard part though, with that I've seen with, mailing campaign for expireds is when inventory is super low, my conversion rates just get, I mean, like right now, I mean, I'm not even, I mean, some of my agents are sending them. I'm encouraging them to do the phone calls right now, just because I'm going to get a faster conversion and a higher conversion rate right now with calls versus the letters.
Sure.
With my letter, I mean, I've had it down. I mean, the best I've had it is 1 out of 200, as far as conversions. In a market like this, when inventory is less than 3 months, it's like, man, I mean, you're talking like 1 out of 6, maybe even 1 out of 800, it just takes a lot. And that is, I mean, we hit them day one, and then every 21 days for the first 6 months, and every 6 months for the, that next year, so historically, like up until recently, I mean, I just abandoned them anytime the market get under 3 months of inventory, because I haven't just found it worth the energy and effort to go after them.
Yeah.
We just started to reinstate them though, for my agents that are just unwilling to do the calls. I'm like, all right, well then let's just start doing these. So you have something going on here. Just because again, we have to be multi-pronged approach in this market. This is something.
With those, do you do texts as opposed to calls, or calls and texts, or what is it, a mix?
No, I mean, I mean, we have some drip texting and drip emailing campaigns that go out. Yeah. But again, where we're having the best success, because look, I mean, unfortunately, I just have some of my agents that just will not hit the phones. Yeah. Right. So then from there, okay, man, if you want to do a letter, here's a letter. Okay. You don't want to do the letter. Okay. Well, here's an email and text campaign, that goes out for over the 2 years. I mean, essentially we just took the letter and kind of put that into a texting and email, and it converts, but it converts at a very low level, right. And some of them will do a combination of that, but those that are getting the best results are pounding the phones, man. Got it. Right. And you can do a combination of all of the three, with that. But again, our biggest focus though right now is, okay, for sale by owners, because we're having great success with for sale by owners. Now for sale by owners, we have 2 strategies that we're doing right now. Number one is what we call kind of a free resource kit strategy. So with this, okay, like if we look at the average for sale by owner, the reason that they're not listing with us is not because of commissions, right? I mean, that is a reason, but the number one reason is they truly believe that they can do it on their own. They don't need us. They can do just as good of a job or better, than us, right? And I always look at this like, it's impossible to talk somebody have a belief system. Like, go get a Trump supporter and a Biden supporter in a room right now. In fact, I want you to convince, like, they're going to come out there probably in a fist fight, right? Like, so like belief systems are changed through self-discovery. Yeah. So what we just learned is like, okay, your average FSBO, man, it can take, anywhere between, 8 to 12 weeks for them to just be like, holy shit, this is harder than I thought. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I need an agent, and we've been doing this for years with our open house and free resource strategy of, what are win-win scenarios that we can combine these, help support them, but then leverage this, right? So we reach out to them, we offer to do a free open house for them. Right now, when we do this for these open house scripts, because again, we understand what they're looking for and what they want. So when I'm reaching out to them, it's, hey, Jim, Joshua Smith here with XYZ Real Estate. Hey, I know that you're getting bombarded and blown up right now from the real estate agent community, begging you for your listing. I just want to be very upfront with you. This is not a sales call. I'm not here to ask for your listing. At no point during our conversation or any future conversations will I ever beg for your listing or even ask for your listing. Look, I understand what you're trying to do. I get it. I understand you're trying to sell your home on your own without a real estate professional, save those commissions. And look, between you and I, even though I'm a local real estate professional, when I sell my own homes, I hate paying those big commissions too. So I get it. I respect it. I honor it. The reason for my call today is I've got a win-win proposition I like to run by you just to see if it's something that you're interested in. And what the proposition is that I like to offer you is I'd like to do, if you're okay with it, do a mega open house on your property. Now I'll invest all the marketing, do all the preparation. I'll do all the work. And through this, our average open house is getting over 30 bodies through each open house. So 30 potential bodies through each open house. And this is a great way for you to increase the exposure to your property. Now, any of the leads that I get from the open house, I'm going to give you those leads. Anybody that is interested in buying your property, I'm also going to give you those people. As I said, I'm not here to ask for your listing, beg for your listing. Any business that comes from this, anybody that's interested, I'm going to pass that person off to you. You can go write the contract. You don't owe me a cent. You don't owe me a penny. So this is a great opportunity for you to greatly increase the amount of people through your home. And I'm not going to promise you I'm going to be able to sell your property at this event, but what I know is that real estate is a numbers game. The more people we have come through your property, the higher likelihood that somebody's going to fall in love with it and give you a great offer on your property. So it gives you the opportunity to go out there and do that. Now, that's why it's a win for you. Why is this a win for me? We're going to get, hopefully get about 30 people through your property. Let's just say one of them wants to buy your property. I give them to you. They want to write an offer with you. Great. You're able to go out there and do that. I have 29 other people that just came through your property that for whatever reason, your house didn't fully meet their needs. A lot of these aren't working with another agent. They're looking for something else. Look, I'm going to go out there and connect and meet with one or two of them and go out there and sell them a property too. So this is a way for you to get more exposure to your property, sell your house, not avoid paying that commission, and a way for me to go out there and make some money too. Right. So is this something like like to meet with and talk about and potentially do on your property? Right. So, and I just look at these things like so many in our industry. And I learned this, you remember those movies, The Godfather series, it's like, okay, I'm going to make an offer so good they can't refuse. Right. Yeah. So, I always look at it and I wish I could say I was smart enough to learn this from the Godfather movie. I actually learned it from Dan Kennedy. But he learned it from the Godfather movies, right. And he calls it his Godfather offers, but it's just, okay, make offers so good that it eliminates people's reasons as to why they would say no. Instead of going for the yes, it's like, okay, if I can just focus on eliminating any reason why somebody would turn this thing down, the natural progression is to get to a yes.
Of course.
So then from there,
what's your success rate on those calls, by the way?
1 out of 4.
Wow. Huge.
Right. So well, now 1 out of 4, meaning I'm going to have 4 conversations to get one to say yes to the open house.
Right.
Then of that 38% that we do the open houses on, we end up getting the listing on.
Wow. Okay.
So So I didn't want to make it sound like 1 out of 4 we end up getting the listing.
No, I get it. Yeah.
But then from there, it's like, dude, I'm looking for an open house, a storefront anyway. Now I get some agents that are like, oh, you're just going to give them the buyer. Why would you do that? I don't work for free. And I'm like, look, you just, you got to think
you're going broke and you're working for free.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, we're getting the open house traffic. Then from there, we have our for sale by owner free resource kit. So we show up, before we do the open house, because again, what we're trying to do there is create that relationship. So when they hit that pain point of, oh shit, this is more difficult than I thought, they're thinking of us, so we give them, hey, again, you can obviously don't need a realtor, but there are, you're going to utilize the title company. So here's, information on that. We give them our how to prep your home for sale guide. It's essentially a staging guide of what to do with your home to get top dollar for your home. So it's a room by room, step-by-step staging checklist guide that we give them. It walks them through like even every day a checklist to make sure your home's showing good for showings. And so they're prepared. We give them a blank purchase contract. Hey, if you're going to get an offer, like you get an offer, you're going to have something to write it on, give them guest registries, teach them how to use them. I even get like, I have, all these pamphlets that I created that goes through, teaches them how to do their own Facebook ads. Right. Give them our vendor list, just free. Right.
Yeah.
And then, as we're developing this relationship, hey, here's all these free resources, and look, as I mentioned, I get respect and honor what you're trying to do here. Now with there's a fine line with me being a local licensed realtor here in this whole fiduciary duty thing. There's a fine line of what I can assist you with and what I can't assist you with. However, as a local, as a friend that we're friends, and I just happen to be, licensed realtor, and you just happen to be selling your home on your own, but just as friends, hey, I can be a resource for you and answer any questions and help you out. So I'm going to check in with you just friend to friend every single week and see if there's anything that, I can do to be a resource, for you, any help that you need. Like if you get offers, you want to ask questions about those offers, if this is good, if this is bad, whatever. Again, by this point though, we've already had several experiences together.
Right.
And I haven't begged them for their listing. Right. So then I'm just developing, so then we're just checking them every single week, right? Until they hit that pain point and then boom, and we've been doing that strategy for probably 15 years, dude. And it's worked out great for us. Right.
Yeah.
The second one for FSBOs that we're doing is a little bit more controversial. And the reason why I say it's controversial is, I get it. People don't like commission, discounters. They don't, but what we started discovering is, look, a lot of these FSBOs that we're listing with, and we wanted the listings, they weren't willing to pay full commission in this market.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, I've always looked at, and look, I'll say this up front, I've never been a big discounter, but like I said earlier too, my average price point for most of my career has been like in the mid 200s. Yeah. Right. So this, this whole new thing of all these properties being $500,000-600,000 grand, is, like I was making a lot of money, making $5,000 or $6,000 commissions, right? So, looking at this, I just looked at it, removing ego from it. I'm like, look, man, if I can make still $7,000 or $8,000 per deal, like I'm good, man, right? So, we just started, but then we were like, if we can do this and we can save time, And I actually didn't come up with this. One of my teammates like figured this out, came up with this. So I learned this from him. That's one of the benefits of having a team is you get to all learn from each other.
Yeah.
What we're doing is we're reaching out to them on Zillow. Now, when we're reaching out to them, it's, hey, Jim, Joshua Smith at XYZ Real Estate. Hey, I see that you got your property for sale, 123 West Main Street. Hey, I just wanted number one, check to see if your property's still available. Yeah, it's available. Okay. Then from there, are you willing to work with local real estate agents if they bring a buyer? So if I have a buyer that's interested in your property and bring a buyer, are you willing to pay a commission, a co-broke on the buy side? Look, the vast majority of real estate or FSBOs say yes to that, right? Then when they say yes to that, okay, hey, average buyer agent commission in our market is 3%. Is that what you're willing to offer? Once they say yes to that, then we just throw, go into it of, hey, got a proposition for you that I'd like to offer you. If you're open to it, great. If not, that's okay too, but I just want to offer it to you in case it's something that works for you. You already willing to pay the 3%. If you're willing to increase that to 4%, I'm willing to take on your listing, full listing services. You'll get all full listing services, all my listings typically at the 6 or 7% fee that I normally charge. I'm willing to do it at a substantial discount at 4%. So I'm going to bring in my photographers. We're going to go out there, market your property, expose it to the most amount of buyers out there, drive as much traffic that we possibly can. I'm going to negotiate like a shark for you for every single offer, ensure that we get you top dollar. So again, even though I'm doing this at a substantial discount, you're still going to get full marketing services from me. Now, the reason why I'm willing to do this at such a discount is, look, I'm going to ask that you help save me some time. And by that, I mean, look, I'm not going to come out to your property for a traditional listing interview. We're on the phone right now. I got your property pull up on Zillow. I'm seeing everything. We can have a conversation right now and walk you through everything I'm going to do for your property. Every offer that we get, I'm going to call you on the phone and we'll negotiate those through the phone. Anything that needs to be signed, we can do that through electronic signatures. If you do need to meet or want to meet with me in person, that's fine. I just ask that you come to me and meet with me at my office. So if you're willing to save me those, hours of just back and forth or drive time to your property, this then allows me to give you those full marketing and full listing services at this substantial discount. Is this something that you're interested in? Dude, we're converting 10% that we're having conversations with. We're converting right on that call. And we're averaging, that's about 2 hours per actual listing. So then from there, when you start thinking about this, okay, you got 2 hours into this, and you can, maybe your market isn't as high prices as mine, but okay, like we're just making sure we're not reaching out to anybody under 400 grand. So we're still making $8,000 gross on these, and that is just, that is our best overall conversion strategy for FSBOs.
Do you still offer the 3% out to the buyer's agent, or do you cut it down at all?
No, we've cut it down, dude, just because it's in our market, it's 2 and 2 for the most part. Now like, look, if it was in that market, if I had to offer 3%, I would, and I'd be okay with that. One thing I want to try with this, one of my good friends, who owns a large, she owns 4 brokerages in Southern Indiana. She was doing a similar, or, pretty much the same strategy. However, she's telling them, okay, like she's doing a sliding scale. Okay, if I get you above your number, then you're going to pay me X commission. So, she had one just the other day that, she's like, I knew it was 20, like 20 or 30 grand under market, of where they listed at. She's like, okay, look, if I sell it there for you, okay, you can pay me the discounted commission. But she's like, I'm pretty confident I can get you, 20 or 30 more grand more than you're asking. Now, if I can get you that 30 grand, you're going to pay me my full 6%. And she, so strategy I haven't tested yet, but, no, in our market, I mean, most are offering, 2% is pretty competitive. Some markets are, like some areas that might be having to offer 2.5%. So worst case, we're getting 1.5%. Most we're getting 2% though.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So that's FSBOs, right? But again, with FSBOs and expires, the hard part is for most markets, and mine included, is there's just not enough of them, it depends on how much business you want to do, but like if I want to go out there and fucking pop, 70, 80 deals a month, like there's just not enough of them. Right. So this is, again, where again, multi-pronged approach. So I'm just always looking at, okay, based on what's going on with the market, where are the biggest opportunities at, right? So when we're looking at this, it's okay. Right now I'll go to the investor side, then we'll go into NODs, right? So on the investor side, there's 3 different categories that we're really hitting here. Number one is your long-term buy and holds. Right. And I think you talked about this on my podcast too, or we talked about this just a couple of weeks ago. And I think your terminology was cap rate compressions.
Yeah.
you know, right.
Right.
You know, so I didn't have the fancy terminology when we started doing this, but you know, but anyway, from that, we're looking at this okay, so for about the first time in about 15 years, we are now starting to see cap rates being diminished. I mean, what you got 1.8 million rental units coming online within the next 12 months. And, you know, so it's a weird, funky time where you got prices staying stable or still going up, but now you have rents, you know, being compressed. So, you know, if you look at top 57 metros, top 57 of the largest 100 cities out there, you know, rents in my market hits that bucket, man. So we're down, you know, 6% on rents year over year. You know, so, you know, somebody who's at a 10% cap rate now, you know, they're at a 4% cap rate. Now they're really at about a 2% cap rate though, because you got taxes going up, you got insurance going up, you got, you know, cost of just maintenance and labor going up.
Well, and a lot of their commercial loans too are 5% calls. So every 5 years it's a reset. You know, that would be a really interesting thing to find out if you could find those resets on all those loans. I just was thinking about that, but go ahead.
Yeah. So what I like about this is with these investor, you know, when we're going after long-term investors, we're also going after very heavily short-term vacation rentals. So your Airbnbs of the world, right? And the script's very similar. But what I like about both of these categories is that, okay, if I can't win them on the list side, well, then boom, we win them on the buy side, right? So I'm reaching out to them. It's just, you know, hey, Jim, Joshua Smith, XYZ Real Estate here in, and I'll just insert whatever city that the property is located in. Hey, I know your time is valuable, so I promise I'll be quick. The reason for my call today is I noticed you got a rental property at 123 West Main Street. And a lot of my investor clients right now in this current economic climate that we're in are choosing to unload portions of the real estate portfolios and just seeing if that's something that you're considering. And if so, I'd be more than happy to shoot those numbers over to you and we can further discuss what your options are and what that could look like. Right. Well, then, you know, so you're going to get a subset of these that are, you know, you're going to get some that are, you know, obviously no property's good to go. Right. But what we're seeing is this is spurring a lot of conversations, right? Because, you know, so many people think that all these big institutions came and bought all this property. And yes, they did. But when you look at large institutions, what is it? I mean, that accounts for what, 5% of the single family attached, you know, right? And then if you look at, you know, it's over 80% that are just regular that, you know, when you take out those that own what, 50 plus units, that's like less than 20% of the rental population out there. You know, so the vast majority are just regular people, man, just regular families. Mom and pop that might have 1, 2, 3, you know, rental price. So, you know, they may not know necessarily what's going on with the rental. So, you know, it's spurring a lot of questions. You know, well, why are the investors unloading the properties, right? So we're able to lead into education, insert what that data is, let them know what's going on, you know, and then when we start looking at this, is like, look, man, I mean, if I had an investment property right now in my market that wasn't performing extremely, extremely well, like right now is the time to unload it, right? Because we are, you know, at close, you know, where they can get, you know, peak pricing out of it before, you know, these cap rates start to get too far into the negative for them and they get squeezed too hard, you know? So then from there though, if they're like, oh no, hey, property's performing great, really happy with it. No desire to go out there and sell now or anytime in the future. Okay. That's so great to hear. Again, a lot of investors I'm talking with aren't in that same scenario. So I'm really glad to hear that. Hey, just out of curiosity, if I could find you other investment properties that perform as good, if not better than this one, would you be interested in adding more to your real estate portfolio? You know, and I'll be upfront and honest with them, you know, right? Because I mean, pretty much any serious investor usually says yes to that, right? But then from there, you know, I mean, I'll be upfront and honest of, look, there's not a lot of great deals now. You know, but as I find them, I'll definitely send them over to you. But look, this time shall pass, you know, this shall too pass. You know, there will come a time where that equation makes sense, you know, but I'll make sure to send you any deals that we're finding. But what I'm looking there is for those long-term, you know, investor relationships. Because I've just found, you know, again, what I talked about when we first started out this podcast of the market's always good for some, but it's like, dude, I want to be, you know, there's going to be markets where it's hot for traditional buyers and sellers. It's going to be, markets going to be hot for my investor clients, or my institutional investor clients, or, you know, my REO, you know, accounts that I like. If we know how to work each, you know, category, well, no matter what's going on, one of them's going to be hot, you know, right? And then with the single family, the short-term vacation rentals, I mean, again, the script's essentially the same, you know, but then, I mean, so our market is number 2 in the country as far as declining occupancy rates. We're down 52% occupancy rates for these short-term vacation rentals.
Are you seeing a lot come to market?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, nationwide, I mean, most markets are down about 30%, right? Because domestic travel is really contracting right now because of inflation. And, you know, and 50% of all short-term vacation rentals were acquired post-COVID. So most of these are just cash flowing like shit. Yeah. Right. And then the third category that we're reaching out to is absentee owners. But with absentee owners, what I'm speaking of specifically here are your baby boomers.
Yep.
That these are secondary kind of vacation homes, right? They're not necessarily renting them out is an Airbnb, like your snowbirds, right? And because even though they might have these free and clear or a low mortgage on them, one of the reasons why we're in such a low inventory environment is we had so many boomers buying second, third, fourth homes. And we're just coming out of the biggest all asset class boom in recorded history. So there's a climate for them to do that, but they're feeling it, right? I mean, you got most boomers now in retirement age, fixed incomes, inflation going up, right? So we're seeing a lot of these having to pick and choose, a primary home instead of, living that snowbird lifestyle. So then the last one, and then I'll shut up and see if you answer any questions they have. The last one that we're hitting really hard right now are NODs, right? Notice of default. So, you got 84 million mortgages throughout the United States right now, and about just over 11 million HELOCs, right? You got 2.8% of all mortgages held in the United States right now on 30 plus days of default. Right. So that shakes out to about 3 million properties right now in the US that are 30 days plus delinquent. And when we just look at this economy right now, man, again, it's putting the squeeze. It is crushing the average middle class. Anybody that's, not upper middle class or affluent, even they're starting to feel the pain. Right. So with this, you got debt at all-time highs on all fronts, corporate, consumer, government. But consumer debt just surpassed 17 trillion, people are just getting maxed out. Right. So now with this though, my recommendation is, because what we're finding is about half of them that we're talking with need to go a short sale. Right. Because if you got anybody that really bought in most markets since like 2021, they're going to be upside down. Right. For the most part. And then the other half, they got plenty of equity to go out there, come clean with the bank. Usually enough to then also go help them, get a rental and pay cash for that rental for the next 12 months, but NODs, we're starting to see a big uptick in those and really hammering those.
So that's your two-prong attack, buyers, sellers. And are your agents, do you have specific agents that are only buyers, only sellers, or are they doing everything?
No, we do everything. I attempted that like a decade. It's been about a decade or so.
Yeah.
Because for me in my head, it makes sense. Like run this like an assembly line. But there's two things there that we found is, okay, number one, it created a bad experience for our actual client, right? Because they don't like to be passed off so much. And maybe I just didn't pass them off right, whatever. But it's like they established this relationship with this agent and they didn't want to have to go, but then two, my agents didn't enjoy that. Like, hey, you want to be able to service your clients on both sides. And so it was bad for culture, and it was a bad experience for a client. So even though in my mind, from an efficiency standpoint, it made the most sense, it was just too disruptive from those two standpoints where we switched out about 10 years ago and just, okay, our agents teach them how to do it.
Going backward to YouTube for a second. I know you're more of a team leader. You're not doing the production necessarily, but are you the one doing the videos, or are all your individual agents doing the videos?
Yep, they're all doing them.
And are they individually assigned, or they just organically do it?
Yep, just organic. I show them, what to do and how to do it. But they're the name, they're the face.
Got it.
With those, and I'll give them the scripts and all of that to go out there and do. But it's them, actually. Getting out there and create. Yeah. And dude, like, and she's only been hitting it hard for 2 years. But this year she's our number one agent with YouTube. In March, man, she popped 10 deals just by herself.
Wow.
Just from YouTube, not any other lead sources.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. And if you guys want to go check out what she's doing, so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. Her name's Kimberly Wright.
Yeah.
It's living in Arizona. Or just if you go to YouTube and type in Kimberly Wright, and Wright is WRIG, like the Wright brothers.
Yeah. Got it. Cool. Yeah, we've taken a ton of your time. Your time is super valuable. Joshua, you just laid out basically a whole game plan for any agent to tap into to crush it. I know there's a lot of nuance here, but and just years of experience. But thank you so much. Lots of nuggets here. But a couple things I want to make sure that everybody that wants to find you and can be a part of your team, your organization, your podcast, your coaching, how do they find you? What do they do?
Yeah, best place is just go to gsdmode.com. That's kind of the hub. You can connect, on there. You can connect to my YouTube channel. I've got about 1,000, shit, at this point, probably 2,000 or 3,000, videos, podcast interviews, tips, all free stuff out there. A lot of good free resources on there. And you can learn more about the other stuff too on there, but gsdmo.com is the best place to kind of start.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. And I know our audience will get a ton out of this. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. It was an honor.